Hi and welcome to the latest episode of Pat's Procrastination, the post-game recap wrap. See, it's that long I can't even remember it. Anyway, it's week 6, episode 39, and we are here to discuss all things Texans, all things Jags, and obviously all things Patriots. I am Clazzy Clare. He is Chudders, as I welcome him in. So, Chudders, how are things with you?
The Drake Maye era has started. Woohoo! What everybody wanted.
Most people wanted.
We want.
We should be fair. We should be fair to those that kind of wanted him to sit, but yes.
I think those who wanted him to sit would have been proved wrong in my mind at the weekend. Mm-hmm. Not to say he had an amazing, blitzing, wonderful, perfect game, because he didn't. But I think it showed you there's a lot of promise, and there's some things that need to be worked on. And the best place to work on those things is on the football field.
Yeah, agreed.
So what did you enjoy about the game? What was good for you on offense? Let's go in order.
Drake Maye was good. I know that some people have said that he was better than they expected. He was sort of as I expected, and I'm not trying to be all any kind of I knew anything or I told you so situation. I'm not. It was just, I was like, this is what I anticipated this guy was going to be. They took him 3rd overall. It's one of those. He wasn't perfect, obviously interceptions and stuff, but I was completely fine, because it's like, this is this kid's first NFL game. You know, what are you going to want from him, sort of thing? And his surrounding cast, unfortunately, whilst I absolutely adore some of them, isn't the greatest of supporting casts, as I know I'm pretty sure we will talk about during the course of this half an hour. But no, it was from an entertainment perspective, which I know is probably one of the standpoints that you much prefer, it was a more interesting game to watch. Whilst they still had, things still went wrong, they still lost, they still gave up a lot of points, blah, 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 blah. It was no disrespect to Jacoby whatsoever, because I think he deserves some kind of warrior award or something for what he did up until now. But he seemed to need to wait for things to be open and stuff like that. And he wasn't there was no dynamicness or anything like that. Whereas we threw Drake Maye in and we saw some sparks of interest, some entertainment, some great quarterback play. So from that kind of perspective, it was good. There was things that were so frustrating, so there was that too. But overall, mostly ish. When you're talking offense, I think most people are only really talking about Drake Maye because there wasn't that much else to talk about in regards to the offense, because some of the situations were not great. Pork dropping, things like that. But there was touchdowns, Pop Douglas, it was great to see him. It was great to see a tight end touchdown again. Needed that, definitely needed that, hook it to my veins. So yeah, it is what it is. There's goods and there's bads, which I know that we will talk about. So go on, unleash the Chudders.
Unleash the Chudders. So first of all, fair to say, let's start with the O-line. Bringing Brown in as a centre with very little practice. They went on to release Levitt on Monday. That was an interesting move, but he's probably been one of the best linemen now. That's one of the best lineman performances, and it wasn't perfect, that we've had this season. So fair play to him. I know the Patriots have now just signed another centre from the Packers practice squad as well.
Lysias Smith. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you wanted to talk about. Okay, yeah, okay, sorry.
I would say generally the line play wasn't massively dissimilar to the rest of the season. There were still a lot of pressures, QB hits, sacks, still going on. You could see the pocket collapsing. The difference was the quarterback was able to maybe at times do more with that, make a decisive throw downfield, even if that wasn't the right choice, even if he did throw some picks, even if he didn't necessarily connect with his receiver, getting rid of the football, or he was using his legs, and sometimes possibly very quick to do that. But I don't mind that too much if it's gaining yards, if it's gaining first downs. So it was a lot better. You could also see at first Houston sent a lot of pressure. The first the first drive was so disappointing, 2 runs, and then he's got to hit a 3rd and long, which obviously he didn't hit. And then the second drive, he's intercepted, and you're like, oh no, this is what you didn't necessarily think that the sky had completely fallen, but it wasn't the positive start you wanted to see from your new quarterback under centre.
Really, I got to admit, the interception, whilst, at the moment of game was like, it didn't bother me. As soon as I'd got over the initial, darn it, it was like, it's okay. This kid's got to settle in. We've got to be patient. You can't have everything all at once. And I feel really bad for missing Ben Brown off my list because, he was really good. 3 days practice and stuff. So slap on the wrist for me because I definitely should have given him a shout as well. But I don't want to monopolise everything. But no, just moving it back. I wasn't concerned by the interception because you've got to give him time. I'm exasperated at you expecting perfection, game 1, minute 1 sort of thing.
Not so much perfection. The first drive, I didn't like the fact that he was thrown in. His first throw was going to have to be a 3rd and long. That's a lot of pressure. Not a great situation for him to have to be starting his NFL career, which plays more to the play calling and the execution by the running backs, who were pretty much ineffective all game, that they weren't able to maneuver him into a better situation. Then the throw, it was a bad throw. By quite a way, sailed it over his head straight into the safety.
Did you ever throw to Douglas? Is that what we're about? Yeah.
That was a bad throw. He's obviously not going to, hopefully, that's something that can be worked on and coached out, but you can't pretend the interception later on was more unlucky.
Yes.
The deflection, then pop straight and then being caught behind receivers back like that. That's not for me on the quarterback. It's very little is on the quarterback for that one. That's more unfortunate than poor execution. But the first one was bad, so it was a bad start. But then he had a run which seemed to settle his nerves a bit then, and he just. What I did like after that, in terms of the play calling, was he was given a bit of freedom to do what he wanted to do. He wasn't sort of handcuffed into a baby offense or handing the ball off 35 times. It was, in fact, I think he did hand it off 35 times, probably more than that. So that's that's bad maths by me. But he was able to be given the freedom to make the plays he thought fit. And I thought that was good to see, albeit it wasn't immaculately executed. That's what I want to see the rest of the season. I want to see him developing, learning on the job. Okay, what works in the freedom of his choices? What's working? Don't want to see the baby sort of playbook that Matt Jones had in his first season, and because I'm not worried about winning, losing, and restricting his play. I want to see the freedom. I want to see him develop. So that was all good. Receivers, as you touched on, Polk didn't have a great game with a couple of key drops there. Obviously, Butte had a wonderful catch down the sideline for his touchdown, as well as Douglas getting his first touchdown. It almost seems crazy that that's Douglas's first touchdown in NFL football when we're you just kind of forget how much he missed, but how effective he'd been last year. Like you say, the tight ends were used more than they probably were under Brissett, I thought. And I think that's still something that's yet to fully develop as well. I think his relationship with Henry Cooper can develop a bit more. The running backs were nigh on ineffective. I think they had combined, what we're looking at, 21 rushes for about 40 yards or something. That's poor, very, very poor. They were ineffective, whether that you're blaming the O-line or you're putting it on a good Houston run defense or the execution of the runners. You'd expect a better production than what they produced. So I'm not going to put the offense on a good list, or there's probably quite a bit of bad on there as well. But it was good to have him out there and good to have him learning, good to have him developing. And I hope that we see improvements week on week on week now.
Yeah, now I'm sort of frustrated because, like as you said, some of the run game issues could we credit it to the Texans defense, and obviously the Pats have played 4 games prior to this, so they've gone up against different defenses and stuff like that. Unfortunately, then you can say, well, the O-line's been different, so it's a bit of a 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, really. But what I'm thinking is that I'm interested to see how this progresses and what we see, so I can see why people feel cheated out of the last 4 games because of last 5 games because of not seeing Drake Maye in. And maybe if we'd have seen Drake Maye in, we'd have seen him against more. But then you can argue the toss that the O-line maybe wouldn't have been as good because it's been in so much flux. So it's one of those,
But
you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, really.
Seem afterward, the comments that Mayo made seem to suggest they didn't want to bring in May because of the O-line, which to some extent I get.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, it wasn't really any different this week. It's not like last week.
It was better. You said it was better,
a lot stronger. Though. And so now's the right time. Plus, you was the most key position. You were starting a guy on that O-line, if you like. You could you left tackle, but in terms of bringing in a new quarterback, having that quarterback center relationship, the key position for that, you're bringing in a guy who's had 2 days practice. And you think that's the right time. Okay, now's the right time to be starting a new. That probably isn't the case. Anyway, it is what it is. He's in.
Yeah, so it was just
development. Yeah. Looking forward to his development. I'm not expecting he's going to win every week. I'm not expecting he's going to throw for 3 touchdowns every single week, as much as I'd love to see it. But I just look forward to him developing relationships with his receivers, tight ends, hopefully the run game improving, and just something on the offensive line sticking, because I don't want to be going into the offseason needing 5 offensive linemen. Let's try and get even 3, 2 of those solidified by the end of the year, so we know what pieces we're dropping in rather than an entire O-line.
If we need 5, if we need an entire O-line, I might have to quit. You might have to find a new co-host.
You'll be excited about scouting and them somehow acquiring 5 offensive linemen will make you happy. The one last thing that annoyed me related to the offense was that final minute drive of the fourth quarter when they just gave up at the end, and it's like, well, what was the point in the rest of the drive then? I get it if you get to 2 minutes left, you're going to lose the game, and you think, okay, let's just take the beating and we'll kneel down and let the game roll out, because I'm sure Houston would have been happy with that. Or you go, right, no, this is another in-game opportunity to test. Let's see our 2-minute offense, see what we can do, and go for it. But then they just seem to give up with 30 seconds left or something. And it was like, no, let's have another shot. Anyway, that annoyed me. Very much annoyed me going off the field. But hey ho, we're on to
you need
Jack.
to move on from your curmudgeonness as well.
Defense. What pleased you on the defense?
Not a lot, I must admit. All love to the defense, because I do still have love for the defense. It was so inconsistent. It was worrying that it was a strength and now it's not a strength. But it's really difficult to sit here and then just be completely and utterly sold on that when you know that they've lost the likes of Barmore and whatever happens with Peppers. Just to talk about him as a player on the field, the loss on the field is significant. I think the loss of Judon, I think is still. I'm still in the camp of, I think they'd have been maybe in a bit of a better place still with him, particularly from a leadership perspective with the loss of Peppers sort of thing. But it's ifs and buts, isn't it? Because they don't have him and that's it. It feels like maybe a little bit too much has been chipped away, and we've got rookies that are growing, that are getting there, but it just, I don't know, it feels a bit inconsistent and slightly concerning. I hope they can sort of rally themselves up a little bit, because I know Covington, it's his first year as a defensive caller, but it's not his first year sort of within the defense. So I'm you give him some latitude in regards to that, but there is still that element of, well, it's not your first rodeo as such. But yeah, and they still don't have Bentley, do they? Am I correct? Now I'm gonna.
Right.
Yeah,
No.
I just think there's some really significant key pieces that they don't have on the defense as well, and I think maybe they are suffering a little bit from having the lack of that. But still, kudos to the guys, because I still the Gonzalez and Mapu and stuff. I'd still, they're still growing, developing, getting their strengths and stuff. I just forgive me, just think because of the inconsistency is a little bit worrying at this stage. So I hope they can wrap that up a little bit. But there's not a lot to say. Well, from my perspective on the defense, I want to start talking about the officials. But anyway, go on.
The run defense was poor when your opposition's averaging nearly 7 yards a carry. That was very poor on run defense. The corners were okay. Gonzo, again, you could show a stat line, I think, which is something like 6 receptions for 38 for Stephon Diggs against him, which isn't the worst. But you can't say he had a great game either, in my opinion. The penalties really cost them on a couple of occasions, gave them first downs. That was incredibly frustrating.
Yeah.
And that's an element that you shouldn't be doing as NFL players. That's less about necessarily the skill or leadership. That's about, in some ways, coaching and execution. That's not, oh God, I was beat because that guy was faster than me or he was bigger than me. It's no, you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be putting your team in those positions, in my mind. I'm personally I think the 3rd round pick that you got for Judon will be more valuable than if you'd had him around. I get the other side of the argument, but probably won't surprise you to know we're on the different sides of that now. Exactly. It wasn't a great performance by the defense. I mean, you've got to say that when they give 42 points. It's it's pretty obvious that Houston could pretty much do what they wanted, whether that was mainly through the ground, but also through the air when they got to key 3rd downs or key passes that were needed, and they got them fairly comfortably. And that's with turnover, interception in the end zone and whatever as well, and they still put up 40 on you. It was disappointing from the defense, and I think linked to that, probably you could say special teams as well. They gave up penalty, I think, on punt to get a first down. It was and a couple of punt returns, I think, as well for some yards that gave up a bit too much ground. I didn't think they had a good day either.
That didn't stand out too much for me, but that might just be my poor memory. So I'm not going to dispute it whatsoever.
Yeah, I think I was frustrated with a lot of it. We were giving up too many points, and
I know.
too much yardage. We were making them look good, and they're a good team. They were in the playoffs last year. They clearly hit on the quarterback they had from the ground running last year, and so they're in a much better position. Talent acquisition as well. What they have on both sides of the ball, they were a better team, and they showed it.
Yeah. The turnovers did really slaughter us, but some of the issues now, I think I said on social media, I never once would say that the Patriots only lost this game because of the officials. No, the Patriots lost this game because of the Patriots. However, the officials went beyond their means to try and get the Texans a win on this one. I think the officiating in this game was really, really embarrassing. I think I actually went to social media and said, I'm embarrassed to be an NFL fan right now because this is terrible. The face mask on Gibson nearly tore the poor guy's head off. The phantom DPI on Mapu, it was like everything that the officials gave to the Texans in those respects resulted, I think, if I'm correct in this, resulted in points in some way or another for the Texans. So the officials just gifted the Texans more points. Now, if none of those things had happened, I'm still not in the kind of realm of, oh, well, the Patriots would have completely won then. No, I just think that maybe the points scored, we'd be looking at a a score sheet that was maybe a lot closer, which wouldn't necessarily reflect on the defense, but I just think it reflects poorly in that aspect. So that was my level of frustration. I was okay with Drake Maye doing his things wrong. I was looking at that, him learning and stuff like that. It was the main frustration for me on this game was the way that the officials were calling it. It is what it is. That's just my opinion. You don't have to agree with me. Obviously, pulling that face, there was some bad calls.
There were some bad calls. It wasn't anywhere near the main frustration for me because, like you say, I think even if they'd have gone the other way, the Patriots wouldn't have won the game. I also think because
that's not the point for me.
Because they didn't play well enough, they didn't win the game. If you'd have won the game and those calls would have happened, we probably wouldn't have even been sat here talking about them. As bad as they were, these things get highlighted when you have a bad team who's giving up points and not moving the ball, because then you're seeing the extra things.
And we've lost Chudders.
Sorry.
Oh, and he's back. That's fine.
You're prevented from doing the things you want to do by calls that are outside of your control, and it gets highlighted when you can't do anything about it, really.
That's fair. I disagree in this.
You then sort of dwell on those points more than normal. I think if you win the game, it's just you wouldn't be thinking about them more.
Okay, that's fair. I would personally, from what happened and what they did and didn't call and stuff like that, I'd still be annoyed with it, even if the Patriots won. If they didn't call the things that they didn't and the Patriots won, I would still be complaining on the thing on Mapu and the no call on Gibson. That was shocking that they let that slide. And then there was something else. I don't know if it was Lowe was flagged for blocking or something. It was just bad, and it really frustrated me. That is the thing that got me in this game, was that. So even if they'd have won, I think I'd have still been annoyed at that, because I thought the display was really poor by the officials. But anyway, people don't tune in for us to moan about the officials. Let's move on quickly. So who was your underrated player then, Chudders?
I'm going to give it to Maye, because I personally think he's underrated because he didn't have a great game. But he showed enough promise that I have confidence that they've got a guy, as people say.
Okay.
They've got someone to be good. The mistakes he made, I can see. If you were either side of the aisle, if you were, this is the wrong guy, or you shouldn't be playing him yet, whether that's because of his development or the O-line or the tools around him, and you think we should be resting it, you could come away from this game pointing at it and go and see, I told you so. This is why he shouldn't be playing yet. To have the turnovers he did, some of the missed passes he had were not great. All those reasons you could look at this and go, that wasn't great. There's also some aspects of positivity you can look at and go, okay, the bomb down the field that was absolutely perfect into his lap. 40-yard touchdown. It was a 50-yard pass. He was literally stood on the halfway line and hits it right on the goal line into the bucket. It was absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
And some of the crosses to Douglas that he hit on one, missed on another. There was enough promise for me to be confident. Okay, we've got a guy here. He's got a lot of development to do. This isn't okay, he's brushed off week 1, week 2. I expect it to be fully polished. Now that ain't gonna be the case. But just by the end of the season, I hope we're looking at something that's polished. It's going to take time. He's a young guy. I'm just pleased it's going to happen now. Yeah,
I agree. And I mean, some mild pushback is, like you said, he is a young guy. He's 21. He's one of the youngest quarterbacks. He's one of the youngest rookies, sorry. So there's a lot to that. And I think some of it is what's around him. He's got to grow within the offense needs to grow as well for him, sort of thing. And that needs to get more polished. So I think that's a factor that's really that integrated in each other, really, is, he's going to get more polished as they do, kind of thing. I think it's some of that is going to influence each other. But anyway, let's move quickly on, because I know that you want to talk about the Jags game, because obviously you're going to the Jags game, London game.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. I'm pleased we're going to have Drake Maye. I'm pleased we're going to see Maye. I was really fearing 2 weeks ago that we were going to go out and see Brissett and a non-functioning offense. Thinking, oh wow, what are we doing? We've had to wait so many years for the Patriots to come back to England, and this is what we have to watch when they come here. Not to say I think it's good they're going to light it up against the Jags, but I'm excited to see Drake.
Never know. With how the Jags are playing lately.
Jags are playing badly. And they're probably bored all week, having to sit in their hotels in London, not where they want to be. But I'm looking forward to seeing Drake Maye play.
Yeah. Just to recap, folks, that's the London game against the Jags, which is 9:30 East Coast time because it's 2:30 UK time. So you guys need to get up early and start watching the football with your coffee this time.
The pre-game show has to start at like 8 o'clock or something, I think, in the morning, doesn't it?
Oh, of course, yeah, with
might
breakfast.
Might even be,
hey, who doesn't want do some Paul with their breakfast? I know I do.
No, so what are you looking for, aside from the actual game itself, what are you looking forward to around the weekend, Claire?
Nothing aside from the game itself.
Not the wonder of the NFL being in the UK and all the... Are you tailgating?
I'm not tailgating, no. Is the Rupert tailgating in London? Sorry?
You're sitting in the posh seats with hospitality.
Oh, I wish. If anyone's out there that has hospitality seats, then hit me up, totally.
No, it'd be good. If any of your fans are going to be there, then let it be known.
What he means is if there's anyone who listens, watches the show, who's going to be there, try and get in touch, because we will be, Pat's Procrastination will be on the road, shall we say, in London. So, yeah.
We won't be doing a live reaction podcast. I'm taking my kids. One thing I'm looking forward to, I'm taking my kids. It'll be their first NFL game. I've taken some American football here, watched Manchester Titans, but it'll be their first NFL game. I've been to a few, so I'm looking forward to them getting involved, seeing what it's all about, getting to a big stadium atmosphere. I'm hoping it'll be a good atmosphere. I've noticed, and it has been reported on, that nowadays the crowds are becoming a little more partisan. It's a little more affiliate-sided with one team now. There's a lot more fans coming over from the States, and it's a lot more noisy than it potentially used to be when it was every fan from every team was going along and just it's now people are going for specific teams, and we're case in point for that. To be fair, we're going to the Pats game, we're not just going because it's a London game. So I'm hoping the
not at all.
I'm expecting there to be a lot of Pats fans there, outnumbering the Jags fans. So I'm hoping for a good atmosphere, a good game, and hopefully even a Pats win.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to quickly move on to predictions because I know we're running out of time as usual. But yeah, I'm predicting a Patriots win. The Jags are on a little bit of a decline. I wonder if Maye is going to be Peterson's last hurrah, maybe, if he's going to be the reason he gets fired. Who knows? I doubt it, to be honest with you. But yeah,
I think we'll see
predicting
Matt Jones in this game.
Ooh, interesting. Are you going to boo him if we do? Because of your dislike for Mac Jones. Extensive.
It would probably be the ironic cheer, wouldn't it? Of, hey, you're bringing.
When he gets an interception by like
Gonzalez or something. That would be beautiful. That would be beautiful.
You would live on that for weeks, wouldn't you?
Matt Jones could throw an interception for a touchdown to Gonzo. That would be the cherry on the cake, I think. That would be beautiful.
You'd live on that for weeks and weeks and weeks. So go on then. What's your prediction?
I think the Pats are going to continue to score some points. I think they're going to move the ball like they did. Not necessarily 3 passing touchdowns for Drake Maye again, but I can see them getting 3 touchdowns. So I think they're going to get up to 27 points.
Ooh.
Defense is where I'm a bit more concerned. Are we going to get a similar performance to last week? And Trevor Lawrence is capable of putting up 30 points against you.
Yeah.
If the defense plays as it did last week. Or are you going to get one of the stronger defensive performances we've had this season, and potentially we are gonna restrict them and hold them down. So I'm gonna say it's a Patriots win, but I'm gonna say it's 27-20. So they do. The defense do enough.
See, I've got a 2013 win. I think the defense are going to hit back hard and really dominate just because they want to make up for the previous game and stuff like that. So perhaps, yeah, maybe. So there you have it, folks. Another episode of Pat's Procrastination, brought to you by the Pat's Propaganda YouTube channel. Please do not forget, as always, to be subscribing to said YouTube channel so that you do not miss an episode, because we will be back next week to cover the London game. We will have been there in person, hopefully. So that's it for week 6. We'll be back for week 7. I am Clazzy Clare. He is Chudders. Tune in next time, folks. And as always, as we say, go Pats.
LFG.